Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And today I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon, so this can be the third and last part of the special edition of this movie I'm going to be talking about. Yes, of course, the time of that Disney was released in Target, so I just thought I'd just cover this. I had to split it in three parts because it would have been much longer, like a way too long of a video, I guess. But anyway, I do like the fact that this film really tries to connect to the first movie, even though this was never intended to be a franchise. I mean, it's quite obvious that it is, and there's some evidence of that. But I guess the film is trying to tie up certain events from the first film earlier on, and just I'll give it credit. At least they're trying to show that. I guess to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, like case in point, and Frozen Fever, this animated short, this was the first and only time where Queen Elsa actually got sick, and this was never mentioned ever again, nor explained really.
Big little delicate moment.
Not that I'm trying to hate on this film, actually. It's the exact opposite. I really did enjoy myself watching this film. So, yeah, like I said earlier, this film really attempts to tie in to the first film, like making sure that there's no loose ties or whatever. And even though there might be quite a bit of explanation to go into it, but yeah, like the fact that it goes earlier on, things may never change, but then they actually do. Yeah, that happens in real life. You think things won't change in real life. You think your life is all great and everything, but then they eventually do. You think you have a strong bond with people, but then life itself throws you a curveball. I guess that's life. Life. Nobody goes through the game of life without being unscathed. I guess you can say. And there's this mysterious voice that's calling out to Elsa and wants her to pretty much discover something. I guess you can say. And then the trolls from the first movie really explain to her that maybe her powers may not be enough. So yeah, they have to go on this grand adventure, which obviously they do. It's a princess movie. Of course, they're gonna do that. What do you expect? Obviously. And but one thing I would definitely say is that I kind of wish they could have done more with Kristoff. I mean, pretty much the entire movie, he's trying to do this like proposal. He wants to marry Anna, which is fine. I kind of wish they could have done more with him in retrospect. But having different type of characters is actually a nice touch because there's more people out there and whatnot. And of course, there's the water horse. And yes, this horse was intentionally trying to kill her off by drown her. Yeah, this horse was being an asshole. I was trying to kill her on purpose. Yeah, yeah. Wow. All right. But yeah, like I say, it goes into Aaron Jones' past quite a bit. Again, trying to tie up everything, I guess you can say, like I was saying earlier. All right. Let me bring up something I brought up before. So excuse me if I'm a bit rushed here. All right, the whole bit, Queen Elsa being, people question her sexual orientation, and yeah, this was brought up quite a few times, and a lot of people were doing this. Really, people who own sister, and then people theorized maybe these two characters could do a little something something. No, no, that's not how it works. These two characters don't even spend not a whole lot of time with each other, like at all. And okay, not enough anyway to develop chemistry. And even if they, spend quite a bit of time, that also you can always say, oh, it could get to know each other. Even then, it's still not guaranteed, like at all. Even if they spend a lot of time with each other, that still doesn't mean it's going to work. Just because they got to know each other doesn't mean that it's going to work. And just because they go through a lot of obstacles in their lives, it doesn't mean it's going to work. And yeah, just even if they would ask each other about each other's hobbies, about each other's interests and whatnot, and just because, and people would say that, okay, just because they're nice to each other, that could lead up to some. No, just because they're nice to each other, that also doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead up to a relationship. Again, that's not how real life relationship work. It's not what you call what was the one show 9 Day Fiance? No, it's not one of those kind of things. We just you know go into headstrong, go rush into things and whatnot. That's not how these things work, like at all. No, of course, and if you rush into it, of course, there's going to be problems. Of course, there's going to be some sort of quite a bit of issues that's going to come in, obviously. So, heaven help, Christ, people, what the hell? Seriously. I mean, I'm not against the notion of her being lesbian. I'm just saying. And there's also a bunch of books that already came out for Frozen as well. Yeah, a few animated shorts as well and whatnot. A few short stories, and there was also a comic book line as well for Frozen. And yeah, don't you think it's a bit late anyway? It would seem completely random when you think about this point. If this wasn't the first movie and the second movie, then okay. But like I said, there's already quite a bit of stories out there already, books, comics, and there was even a hypothetical book that was made out there at some point. So making her an official lesbian in a sequel seems out of the blue, seems out of nowhere when you think about it. At this point, might as well make a different character while you're at it. Oh yeah, there was also the cereal that came out, which yes, yeah, I'll admit that I did ate this quite a bit. It was actually quite good, actually. So I actually like this. Yeah, I went to various different stores and bought it. Uh, I'm not obsessed with Frozen 2. You are.
So yeah, trying to display the fact that it's not gonna always be all sunshine and lollipop, even if this is in fact a Disney movie. So what I'm saying is that it does not have a balance, even though it does show that there's more darker moments, especially comparing it to the first film. So yeah, but they seem to have a balance of both. Anyway, so that's something that was done for the film that's actually really well done. I couldn't exactly say the same thing with the film Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, the tone for that was pretty bad as far as I'm concerned because it tries to have some really serious moments and whatnot, but all these moments were immediately dissolved by this overly goofy tone that the entire film have. I mean, I'm not saying you can't have any humorous moments, but they do need to work their way in. And while trying to make light of the moment, trying to ease the tension isn't bad on its own. It just depends on its execution on how to handle its own story. But some movies would just do it and just really overdo it. Just pretty much ruin what we're trying to do here, folks. And I really didn't like that. It still maintains the overall Disney feel that you might expect from these princess movies, which, of course, can be considered as a good thing because it needs to have that certain magic that Disney has. So that's a great thing there. So when you try to make a sequel, the thing is that you should make the adventure bigger. You should make it more wider. So make it more everything, I guess you would say. Whatever the first one was, make it more. And that's one of the things you definitely should do when considering the fact that this kind of thing needs to be done like this, of course. Which I'll get to in just a moment, folks. I'll get to what I just said, back to what I just said a moment. But another thing I will address is that, of course, we do get to, like I was saying way earlier, get to see more characters. Like him, for example. It has something to do with their father had experience, so they are soldiers. So yeah, it gets into the past a bit more, and maybe with other animals as well. So there's a whole new cast of characters that's being brought up for this film, which of course is typical of a sequel anyway, because you just see more characters that will somehow add to the adventure. So even with this character, I know she was briefly shown in the trailers, but she does have a pretty good impact on the story somehow. I'm not gonna tell you how, but if you want to know what happens exactly, well, you're gonna have to check it out yourself, folks. So yeah, that's the thing. Brand new characters are brought up here, of course. But the thing is that the film never feels like it was overly stuffed. It was feel like there was not. I never once felt that. Oh no, there's too many characters or whatever. I mean, that seemed to be a thing with certain movies, yes. This definitely happened with movies like Spider-Man 3, where it just came off there was way too many characters for one movie. And I also felt like maybe there were too many storylines going on at once. I mean, even with the films like The Amazing Spider-Man had several the exact same thing. Too many characters, too many plot lines going on. So, okay, you think they would have learned, but no. This was amplified with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Had more of the same problem. Oh, yeah, just no. That's the thing when it comes to certain movies, folks. They tend to do that with sequels, usually. Just having too many things at once, and way too many characters at once, but thankfully that's not in this movie at all. So a lot of stuff seems pretty even out. So another thing I would say is that at first, yes, we see all these characters that gather together for this grand epic adventure. So okay, you're thinking that they're gonna be all together throughout the entire thing. But no, no, no. Eventually, Anna separates from the pack to do her own thing, of course. And then, it's not just her. No, of course not. It's not just her either. Also, happens with Kristoff, of course, as well. He drifts off to do his own thing. Okay, it's starting to get really dangerous here when you think about it, because they're in unfamiliar land. Same thing with Elsa. She goes off and does her own thing. So yeah, which of course can provide danger for these characters because they're not together to fix it. If there's a problem, they can't fix it right away because they're too far apart. And this is also is taking place in a time period where they don't have any cell phones to call each other. And yeah, you can't even ask someone to use their cell phone. So yeah, all the convenience of cell phones, folks. Oh boy, this definitely takes in a place where it takes place way before that. So yes, this is a good thing because it's one of those things in sequels that happen if it's done right, of course. This is a thing that I've noticed when it comes to sequels. All the characters from the first film start off together, or they're just not together at all in the beginning of the film. Like, for example, the one movie, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, all the characters from the first film are not together right away in a sequel. This, of course, creates suspense because you realize maybe not all the characters will make it out alive. So, separating these characters that you grow so accustomed to from the first film, suddenly separated them from each other, makes it seem more of an adventure, more craziness that can actually happen. So that's definitely an aspect of the film that can be used as a way to create some sort of suspense because not all the problems will be fixed right away. So putting the characters in dangerous situations can be pretty risky, considering the fact that it's something about Walt Disney. You would expect it to be super sweet, super kid friendly and whatnot, but I guess you can say that's not the case here. They do attempt to go into more darker themes, I guess, such as separation from the one you care for, really. So there's that. Experiences like this, when it comes to this kind of anxiety, yes, it's a disorder that maybe a certain adult may experience. Of course, that kind of thing can happen. And yes, of course, it's not actually easy for a lot of these characters, of course. So, yeah, this definitely something I kind of definitely bring up. Because, considering the fact that Frozen 2 does bring up some complicated issues, even for a princess movie. Like, for example, how do I put this? What I'm getting at is, well, this dude is not exactly a nice person, like, at all. So, let's just say the film is bringing up the fact that sins of the past need to be brought up to the present to create a better future. So, yeah. Because the thing is that certain things from the past generations will, be have a negative outcome for the present generation, and that's definitely something that is a reflection on this. Which does make sense. It does make the film feel more realistic in that regard. A sequel that would go into much darker themes compared to the original is something that's been done before, and it can actually be a great thing if done properly, of course. And that's what you should do. The sequel should be going upon something that the first one didn't do it. So, which did surprise me because you're trying to make something out of nothing. Because the first film was supposed to be just one movie. So they had, like was explained way earlier, folks, they had to make a brand new story here. So for what it's worth, they they've done much better than I was expecting it to be. Because honestly, folks, let's be honest here. Disney is not known for making good sequels. Yeah, they actually made some of the worst sequels imaginable, and this entire video could have been easily just talking about some of the garbage that they made over the years. And trust me, folks, it's a lot. It's a lot of bad sequel movies, that they made over the years. Okay, yes, to be fair, Disney is not the only studio guilty of this. There's been plenty of other studios that made garbage sequels. In one studio or another, they're all guilty of this. Every single studio out there is guilty of making a god awful sequel. They've all done it. Unfortunately, they all done it in one way or another. Yes, some are worse than others. Sure, I'll give you that. But a lot of these companies had made substandard sequels to an otherwise great first installment of the franchise. That has happened multiple times with so many different companies, unfortunately. That's the thing, it happens when you make a sequel to a movie, this is especially true when the sequel is uncalled for. This is especially true when that happens. A lot of people find out a movie is successful and want to capitalize on the first installment. So, you think they were trying to come up with a better story with some of these sequels, but no. The other thing about just trying to make a quick dollar and what, yes, I understand this is a business and they just want to make money. That in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing per se, really. Business wise, it does make sense as to why you want to do that kind of a thing. I can see why a lot of people would want to make a sequel to something that was extremely popular. Gotta cash in on that money, which is fine. Wanting to make money isn't inherently bad, so don't be thinking that, folks. I'm just pointing out some companies out there would much rather focus on making a dollar than making a good quality product. They allow the greed of money to get in the way, is all I'm saying. And yeah, that unfortunately rings true even for Disney in some cases, unfortunately. Because, like I said a moment ago, they made some trash. They made some trash heap before, sad to say, folks. Don't get me wrong, folks, I like Disney. I'm not saying that to just spit in the face or anything. But my point being is that just because I like something doesn't necessarily mean I can't criticize it, is all I'm saying. But, oh boy, they made some doozies in the past. They made definitely some doozies. Oh boy. Here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. Yeah, I've seen all of the Disney sequels that they had to offer, and the vast majority of these they're just awful. They're just, they're as pointless can be. They're just some of the lowest rated films I've seen when it comes to sequels, anyway. Yes, there's some exceptions to this, obviously. There's some exceptions to the rule when it comes to them making sequels. I realize that. But unfortunately, the vast majority of these are just trash, garbage. But, like, some of these are just insult to the original film that's supposed to be a sequel of. Just, man. You think this company would have thought of something better than that? I'd be better than that. I think the worst contender for the worst sequel, as far as I'm concerned, is Cinderella 2. That was just a trash movie, folks. That was definitely easily the worst thing I've ever seen. Yeah, it's supposed to be the sequel to the film, the first one. And it came out in the 50s. Yeah, the original one was released in the 1950s, and the sequel in 2002. That's a total of 52 years. I mean, really, have the people waiting that long? It was never meant to have a sequel to begin with, and you just out of the blue gonna wait this long to do this. And like I said, this is the worst sequel, as far as I'm concerned, that Disney had made. Because it's supposed to have like a bunch of stories attached together. It was originally supposed to be a TV show, but they stitched it up together to be a movie or something. That makes it even more lazier. Come on. But on the bright side, there was obviously more care being placed in Frozen 2 compared to that. So this is definitely one of the better sequels that they made over the years, thankfully. So in comparison, this one had more of a coherent story, and they're trying to go into some things that they didn't look upon from the first film. So yeah, folks. The thing is that I did like the idea where even Olaf himself is struggling with the concept of growing up. Yes, growing up, becoming teenagers is a big deal for many kids. Of course, even a lot of adults don't really want to be adults. They want to go back to when they were kids. Yes, that's a thing for a lot of people because I know as kids, a lot of children can't wait to be grown up, but then when they are actually grown up in their 20s, in their 30s or 40s or what have you, they reminisce about the past. They feel really nostalgic. So they want to go back when they were like 8, when they were 12, 11, or what have you, or even 9 years old. They miss that time period. But the thing is that you can only experience that once, and just once, and only once. So this is the kind of thing that is brought upon in Frozen 2. Which, yes, I do think is a nice touch. Considering the fact that, if anything, that comes off like a coming of age kind of a thing. Which, yes, a lot of people do have to learn to deal with because there's absolutely nothing you can change that. People do get old. I mean, assume you get the immortal pill or whatever. That's the thing a lot of people believe that you can actually you get some sort of medication, you can actually stop aging. But that's like a whole other video I can speak about, really, folks. That's like a whole other thing. But point being is that, kids themselves, when you're in middle school, when you're in high school, and beyond that, you have to accept the fact that this is reality, and you have to make the most out of it. So I guess you can say that's also definitely something that the film touches upon. Nothing stays the same forever. I mean, okay, maybe some things, maybe, but you can't say that for every little thing. That's really unrealistic. So they're trying to make the story itself seem pretty relatable in that degree, I suppose, because they know a lot of families do watch these films. So you want the target audience to be attached on an emotional level with these characters, because that's the point. So when it comes to making movies, Disney, you could always bring up the fact that you have, regardless of who you're working with, regardless of who the director is, and regardless of what company you're working with, you have to understand the notion of the language of film. You can use cinema as a way, even if it's animated, to reach to people, as a way to bring emotion, making raw emotion to characters. Storytelling is important, folks. I don't care what genre this is, but storytelling is very, very important. Because human beings are natural storytellers. There's always a story that you want to tell, somebody, maybe a friend, maybe your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or whoever. There's always a tale that you want to inform somebody about something at some point. You deem it to be exciting or whatever the case may be, but for whatever reason, you want to tell them a story. So what I'm saying is that stories define the human experience, and you can use film to express that. You have to know what you're trying to express throughout these images, and yes, you can use images to express, emotion and whatnot. So that's definitely a good thing there. So yes, you can actually make storytelling simply through even just using images. You can even use pictures themselves to tell the story. You don't necessarily always need to use words to express the plot. One famous director here refers to this as pure cinema. That's actually a term that he brought up before because you can use images themselves to express to tell a story. So, since animation is a visual experience for your eyes, of course you can use that also as a way to do that kind of a thing, even for CGI animation. And obviously, okay, it was something I should bring up real quick. Um, before just wrapping this up, folks, is that the animation. The animation here looks really nice. This is definitely a top-notch animated film. If anything, it actually looks more detailed than the first movie. So I can definitely say that that's a good thing because it's telling you they didn't go cheap on here. It is not some cheapo-rama animation kind of a thing because the first film was a smash hit. So they went all out on the expenses for this film. They probably used new computers or something. I don't know. But I mean, okay, I did watch the Behind the Future, so I'm not quite sure they used brand new computers or something, or they were just updated or whatever. But point being is that the animation for Frozen 2 has definitely been improved upon. There's more detail. The animation itself looks really smooth, and the characters' facial expressions are really nice. When it comes to the animated films, one thing I can definitely say is that Disney is really, really good with the characters' expressions. The facial features are really nice. Of course, when you're gonna be showing your face a lot, of course, so you can definitely use this as a way to express the characters, and that's definitely something Disney's really good at. Sadness, angry, you name it. You can use this a lot of ways through your face. Disappointment, discontent, being uncomfortable or feeling comfortable. A lot of this you can actually express through your face. So that's definitely a good thing because animation is a way to do that. You have to draw the entire thing anyway. Okay, I mean, draw it through CGI animation, but still drawing in a sense. So yeah, that's the thing. The CGI here is really nice, folks. Even the clothing, you can see that it's really moving like actual clothes. The clothing looks like and feels like actual clothing. You can actually sense that these are clothing that they have. So that's definitely nice there, folks. And of course, everybody has their own outfits, of course, speaking of clothing. And you can use the colors to make it seem vibrant. The colors in here are really nice to look at, folks. The colors, they're trying to use it as a way to express the mood throughout the entire feature, so that's definitely a nice thing there, considering the fact that they spent so much money. And yeah, the CGI is really nice here, also because, like we're saying, the movements are really smooth. The movements really show that they really gave this film quite a bit of budget. I mean, okay, this seems like an oddly specific thing to get into, but again, going to their direct-to-video stuff. When it comes to their direct-to-videos, prequels, or spin-offs, or whatever you want to call them, they usually make them on the cheap, like the really, 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 really cheap. But I'm guessing that Disney must have learned from their past mistakes and learned. The Walt Disney Studio have been heavily criticized for making these lackluster sequels. So I'm guessing here they're trying to learn here, not repeat their mistakes that they've done in the past here, folks. So that's definitely a great thing there. And so yeah, I really did appreciate what they were trying to do with the animation. So that's definitely a good thing there, folks. So when it comes to animation, it's definitely top notch. Even the hair, yeah, even the hair seems really nice and detailed as well, folks. I gotta say, I really like the hair that was done in here. Yes, like I said, I did like the hair in here, folks. It actually looks like actual hair on these characters. So it definitely spent a lot of time, like an insane amount of effort was placed on the hair, the environment. Things that look like wood actually look like wood. They look like actual buildings. You could actually touch in real life. So that was definitely something I was not exactly expecting, really. That is absurd amount of detail and whatnot. So, yeah, props to them. They surprised me at that level. So I like that. I really did. So another thing I would probably bring up is that I was not exactly expecting to go to a certain direction. And don't worry, I'm not gonna say what exactly it was for those who have not seen it. I mean, okay, it's kind of hard to think that people haven't seen it because it's been around for a good while already. But let's just say when they went farther out in this grand adventure of theirs, when they finally found the truth about their parents, let's just say it's not exactly fantastic news. Yeah. And things just feel like throughout the entire movie, like it's worse for them in a lot of ways. So yeah. But yeah, folks, this film did get a lot of attention during its original release. So they definitely made the money back. I know they had a lot of money, like a big budget, but it definitely made it back. That's for sure. So in this film, it definitely you can tell they were really passionate about with what they were trying to do. I like the character designs. The character designs, they look like something Disney related, of course, but the character designs are really detailed, and you can actually tell that the characters actually got older compared to the first film. So that's definitely a thing. They actually got older, of course, and each character has their own thing going on, their own lives, of course, obviously. And the characters in here, even the princess characters, are very adventurous. So the character of Elsa, the queen, has to go on an adventure with the princess character, of course. I mean, yes, it's pretty obvious at this point, even if you haven't seen the film already. The female characters are actually pretty important. But one thing I would definitely say is that it's never in your face about it. It never rubs off the wrong way. It's never in your face. I mean, yeah, they realize they're women. They realize the female characters play an important part. But it's never so much so that it gets annoying, really, when you think about it. Yeah, my point is that the film is not over reliant on the fact they're female, they're female. Okay, I get they're female. I mean, you can be strong and be a woman, that's fine, but there has to be more to it than that. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah, this movie. Yeah, anyway. So yeah, folks, you can have female empowerment without insulting everybody else. You don't have to degrade men or anything. You could be empowering two women while helping men. You can do both at the same time. So that's definitely a positive on this film, folks. And even though I do feel that could have done more with Kristoff, honestly, but I guess for what it's worth, it's not too bad. And speaking of slight disappointments, I kind of wish they could have added more behind the features here, folks. For nearly $40, or roughly that price, you'd think you would have way more special features. But, oh well, I guess. And there's more than one version anyway, so you can take what you can get, I guess. But anyway, folks, thank you for anybody for watching my long video of this, my long review. This is probably the longest one I did so far. But anyway, I'll give this film an overall rating of a 7.4 out of 10. It gets a 7.4 out of 10 for me. Yep, a 7.4 out of 10. That's a pretty high rating there, folks. As always, thanks for watching, and take care.